The winter wind moved through the streets of Chicago like a restless whisper, brushing against skyscrapers and slipping through crowded sidewalks. Neon lights reflected off wet pavement, taxis honked impatiently, and somewhere in the distance, a train roared across iron tracks. In the middle of all that noise, inside a dimly lit subway station near downtown, a girl stood with her back against a tiled wall, holding a worn-out acoustic guitar. Her name was Lily Harper. She was 19 years old, invisible to the world, or at least that's how it felt. Every evening after her shift at a small coffee shop, Lily came to that same subway platform. She would set down a small black case in front of her, take a deep breath, and begin to sing. Most people never stopped. Some were too tired, some were too busy, some simply didn't care, but Lily sang anyway, because singing was the only place where she felt seen. Lily hadn't always been this quiet girl hiding in a subway station. When she was little, her father used to sit beside her on their apartment balcony, playing old country songs on his guitar. He worked construction during the day, his hands always rough and tired, but when he played music, his face softened. Music isn't about being famous, he used to tell her. It's about telling the truth. When Lily was 12, her father passed away in a workplace accident. That night, the world went silent. Her mother fell into depression. Bills piled up, the apartment grew colder each winter. And Lily stopped singing, at least in front of people. At school, she became the quiet girl. When students talked about dreams, becoming doctors, athletes, influencers, Lily kept hers hidden. Because once, when she told a classmate she wanted to be a singer, he laughed. A singer, like those reality show losers. The class laughed with him. That day, Lily learned how cruel small words could be. Years passed. On her 18th birthday, her mother handed her a small box. Inside was her father's old guitar. "I think he'd want you to have this," her mother said softly. That night, Lily locked her bedroom door, sat on the floor, and played until her fingers hurt. She sang quietly at first, like she was afraid someone might hear her. But something changed. Her voice wasn't just sound. It carried grief. It carried hope. It carried unfinished conversations with her father. That was the night she decided she wouldn't let fear win anymore. The subway became her stage. The tiled walls echoed her voice, turning simple melodies into something hauntingly beautiful. Some nights she earned $15. Some nights only $3. But once in a while, something magical happened. A stranger would stop. A businessman would pause mid-step. A tired nurse would lean against a pillar. A little child would tug their mother's sleeve and whisper, "She sounds pretty." And in those moments, Lily felt alive. One freezing December evening, snow began falling heavily outside the station entrance. Commuters rushed faster than usual, eager to escape the storm. Lily almost didn't sing that night. Her fingers were numb, her boots were soaked, but she remembered her father's words. Music is about telling the truth. So she closed her eyes and began an original song she had written called, "Half of My Heart." The lyrics were simple but raw. "I still hear you in the silence, in every chord I play, half of my heart is missing, but the other half will stay." Her voice trembled at first. Then it grew stronger. Unbeknownst to her, a man standing near the staircase had stopped walking. He wore a long black coat and held a leather folder under his arm. His name was Marcus Reynolds. Marcus wasn't just another commuter. He was a talent scout for an independent music label. He had spent years listening to polished, trained voices inside expensive studios. But something about Lily's voice made him forget the noise of the subway. It wasn't perfect. It was real. When she finished, there was a rare silence in the station. Then a few people clapped. Marcus stepped forward. "Is that your song?" he asked. Lily's heart raced. "Yes, it's honest," he said. "Do you have more?" She nodded slowly. He handed her a card. "Come to this address tomorrow at 2 p.m. if you're serious about this." Then he walked away. That night, Lily barely slept. What if it was a joke? What if she embarrassed herself? What if she wasn't good enough? The next day, she stood outside a modest recording studio on the north side of Chicago for nearly 10 minutes before going in. Inside, the walls were covered in framed platinum records and photographs of rising artists. Her hands shook as she held her guitar. Marcus sat behind the soundboard. "Whenever you're ready," he said. The microphone stood in front of her like a test. She closed her eyes. And she sang. Not carefully, not timidly. She sang like the subway was still around her. Like her father was sitting beside her. Like every person who had laughed at her dream was just background noise. When she finished, there were tears in Marcus's eyes. "You don't need auto-tune," he said quietly. "You need a platform." Within weeks, Lily recorded her first single professionally, "Half of My Heart." The label uploaded it online with little expectation. The first day, 312 streams. The second day, 900. By the end of the week, 50,000. Then someone posted a video of her old Subway performance on social media. It spread like wildfire. Millions of views, thousands of comments. "She gave me chills. This is the kind of voice the world needs. Why is she not famous already?" Radio stations began calling. Podcasts requested interviews. And suddenly, the quiet girl from the subway was being asked to perform on real stages. Her first official concert was at a small theater in Chicago. Backstage, her hands trembled just like they had on the subway platform. The announcer called her name. The curtain opened. Bright lights flooded her vision. Hundreds of faces stared back at her. For a moment, fear tried to return. Then she saw something in the front row. A little girl holding a handmade sign that read, "Your voice saved my mom." Lily swallowed the lump in her throat. And she sang. By the final chorus, the entire audience was holding up phone lights, swaying together like stars had descended into the theater. When the last note faded, the applause didn't stop. It grew. People stood, clapped, cried, cheered, standing ovation. Months later, Lily stood on a much larger stage, this time in Los Angeles. Thousands of fans, cameras flashing. Her song had reached international charts. But when interviewers asked her how it felt to be famous, she smiled gently. "I was already a singer," she said. "The world just took longer to notice." One evening, long after tours and interviews became normal, Lily returned quietly to that same subway station in Chicago. No cameras, no announcements, just her guitar, and the tiled walls. She began to sing softly. A few commuters slowed down. A man dropped $1 into her case. She smiled, because it was never about the money. It was never about the fame. It was about telling the truth. And somewhere, beyond the noise of the city, she felt certain her father could hear her. The winter wind moved again through the streets above. But this time, it carried her voice farther than ever before. And the girl who once felt invisible had become a light in the dark, not because she was perfect, but because she refused to stay silent.